Women's professional basketball has just ventured into uncharted terrain, so pay close attention to what's on your screens right now. What we saw in Portland tonight was a full-fledged public execution of a relationship between a head coach and a generational hero, rather than a typical coaching dispute. Social internet is ablaze with the pictures. The locker room of the Indiana Fever is officially on fire, and the sports world is in complete disbelief. We are discussing a head coach going insane, yelling at her franchise player, hurling her clipboard violently to the ground, and then benching the world's most significant athlete in a perverse show of power. Black small square, the boundary has been crossed. There is no way to undo the harm. The Indiana Fever did not simply lose to an expansion team 84-100 in a basketball contest. In real time, they ruined their own future. Before we get into all of it, if you are new here, this channel is where we take the biggest stories in sports and break them down in a way that actually makes sense. No fluff, no filler, just straight analysis and honest opinions. If that sounds like something you want more of, hit that subscribe button right now because we cover this stuff every single week and you do not want to miss what is coming. And if you are already part of the Simply Explained family, welcome back. Now let us get into exactly what happened inside that arena, because once you see how this all unfolded piece by piece, you are going to understand why so many people are absolutely furious right now.
Don't you dare re-sign nothing with this team. Don't sign nothing with this team. You need to get the hell out of there. Go to Canada with Sandy. Get the fuck away from this fucking bum of a coach. Fucking clown. Stephanie White is a bozo, man. She stinks. Look at this. What have you done to be talking to Caitlyn Clark? You ain't done nothing, Stephanie White. You a trash-ass coach. Look at this. Crashed out on her, subbed her out. Look, then she throws the clipboard down. Throws the clipboard. Okay. Don't sign no epic deal, Caitlyn Clark. Get the fuck out of Indiana. Leave this clown show of an organization.
Before applying any analytical framing, the Portland sideline film needs to be described clearly and concisely. The video shows a head coach who is clearly experiencing emotional dysregulation, throwing a clipboard, raising his voice, and reducing his physical proximity to Clark to a level that would be considered inappropriate by professional workplace standards in any industry. This is all directed at the player whose competitive and commercial value to the team is, by every measurable metric, unmatched on the roster. The footage's significance extends beyond its substance. Its surroundings amplifies it. This scenario involving a coach and a player during a competitive time is not unique. It is the most recent event in a season-long pattern that has been recorded. This season's most visually explicit chapter has been formed by the sideline physical interaction that was recorded earlier, the reporting infractions, the conflicting press conference remarks, and the rotation decisions that have been analytically documented throughout several games. The narrative is the pattern. Its most noticeable manifestation at the moment is the video. When assessing White's current institutional position, her professional background is pertinent context, not as personal criticism, but as organizational information. Prior to coming to Indianapolis, her head coaching record did not feature consistent program-level success. Prior to this position, she earned her WNBA coaching credits as an assistant on championship-caliber staffs, which was a significant and respectable contribution to those organizations, but fell into a different professional category than managing a club. She was hired by the Indiana Fever to create and oversee a successful program centered around a generational talent, something she had never done at the professional level before. That employment decision must now be assessed in light of the documented record for the 2026 season.
I'll go pack it for you. I'll fold everything nice and neat.
I guess you guys started on the 8-2 run, and then after Portland took a timeout to kind of just flip the script. Just what changed either on their end or on your end?
I just thought they were the hungrier team.
No, what changed was you took Caitlyn Clark out with 6 minutes and 30 seconds left in the fucking first quarter. That's what changed. She had 2 points, 3 rebounds, 2 points, 3 assists, and a rebound. We up 8-4. You put her back in when we down 17-10. Whole game flipped upside down.
The competitive arc of the game is hence defined and documentable. In the first 2.5 minutes, the Fever began with an 8-2 run. During that period, Clark scored 2 points, dished out 3 assists, and pulled down a rebound. The offensive tempo was appropriate. Advantages were being produced by the ball movement. Black small square, the Portland Fire called a timeout, a competitive indication that the opposing coach realized Indiana was performing well and needed to intervene to stop it. White removed Boston and Clark at the same time at 0-6, 30 in the first quarter. Black small square Portland had a 13-2 run. The lead turned into a deficit. For the rest of the game, Indiana's competitive trajectory was reversed and did not go back in that direction. 84-100 was the final score. The analytical criticism of the substitution choice is not that it went against an abstract rotation principle. The precise competitive information that was available at 0-6, 30 of the first quarter, an 8-2 advantage, a hot Clark, and a disorganized Portland offense requesting time out, constituted an unmistakable indication that the personnel combination that was creating momentum should stay on the floor. The coaching failure that the game tape clearly shows is the choice to remove both key momentum generators at that particular moment in reaction to a pre-scripted timing pattern rather than a real game read. 52 points were scored in the paint by Portland. Megan Gustafson, a successful professional player with a season average of about 9 points per game, finished with 22 points on 8 of 8 shots. It is not a player performance accomplishment to maintain perfect field goal efficiency over an entire game against a professional defensive plan. It is a failure of a defensive strategy. The coaching staff's institutional responsibility for defensive design is seen in the coverage assignments that permitted Gustafson's favorite catch points and finishing angles to go unopposed during a full game's worth of plays.
Out, I think, around the 6:30 mark. Then Portland went on a 13-2 run. Just what was the reasoning for checking them out, or did they either of them request themselves?
Well, AB's still on a minutes restriction, so she's coming out. And typically that's around the same time that we've been taking Caitlyn out.
Why though? Why? Why can't you go game by game and figure it out? Why is it that no matter how she's doing, she has to come out with 6.5 minutes left in the first quarter? Why? Why? This is that old.
White's answer to the substitute question during the press conference is now included in the official record and needs to be considered separately. Her description of the 6:30 Clark removal as our standard substitution pattern does not justify a choice made during that particular competitive moment. The fact that the substitution was not a situational read is acknowledged in writing. Regardless of what the live game was saying, it was a scheduled, timed application. Black small square at the highest level of professional basketball coaching, the ability to override pre-written strategies when real-time competitive data contradicts them is essential. The main input is always the game. The secondary one is always the plan. According to White's own explanation, those priorities were reversed on Saturday night. The main input was the plan. A timing pattern developed in previous games overrode the competitive situation of the game, an 8-2 advantage, a dominant Clark, and a disrupted opponent. Rotation management is not what that is. Rotation automation is that. The game film's assessment of it is the 13-2 run that ensued.
Rooting for the opposite team.
For checking them out, or did they either of them request themselves?
Well, AB's still on a minutes restriction, so she's coming out. And typically that's around the same time that we've been taking Caitlyn out before. We didn't in Golden State just because, quite honestly, we didn't Raven in that environment without another ball handler on the floor. So that's been our typical substitution pattern.
It's a trash-ass substitution pattern.
As a documented philosophical statement on player development, it is worthwhile to analyze the reasoning behind Raven Johnson's decision to keep a developing player out of a hostile road environment, because the coaching staff did not want her on the floor without a second primary ball handler. Johnson was selected to become a contributor at the professional level. Exposure to competitive contexts of increasing difficulty is necessary for professional development. A coaching philosophy that prevents young players from being in challenging situations in order to shield them from the discomfort those situations cause is not a development philosophy. It is a philosophy of protection. Furthermore, developed players are not produced by protection concepts. They create players whose development is artificially limited by the maximum amount of risk that their coaches are willing to take. The remaining Portland performance data cannot be isolated from the organizational setting in which it took place. Mitchell's shot selection, Billings' 8 ineffective minutes, Boston's -14 performance in the previous game, and her inside difficulties versus Gustafsson on Saturday. These are data points on individual player performance, but they are taking place in a system whose design flaws have been analytically recorded over the whole season. Players operate inside systems. Individual player performance accountability cannot be assessed in isolation from the design context that gave rise to it when the system's structural flaws have been so well acknowledged.
Attention to this.
Do you guys feel like any of the officiating rule changes are impacting how you're able to play as a team defensively?
Officiating wasn't my problem tonight.
The officiating wasn't my problem tonight. You see what her problem was. It's that damn trash-ass head coach, Stephanie White. Fucking blinking all weird like you on drugs. Get her out of here, bro. Get her out of here. Caitlyn Clark said it. The refs what? Caitlyn.
This season, Clark's post-game speech is the most analytically significant communication she has created, and it needs close scrutiny because of what it doesn't say rather than what it does. She made a mistake. In a road loss to an expansion team, she had 5 personal fouls. Regardless of how she truly feels about the refereeing, a player in that circumstance is expected to make some sort of reference to the foul trouble as a competitive element after the game. Athletes typically exploit this professional diversion to avoid taking responsibility for their own organization in front of the public. Black small square Clark didn't use it. She made it clear that she had nothing to do with the officiating. That comment is not an objective assessment of the referees, in the particular context of everything that had happened prior to and throughout that game, including the clipboard footage, the 0-6-30 substitution, the 13-2 run, and the second loss to Portland this season. Black small square, it is a carefully crafted public statement from a player who is aware that every word she says at a post-game podium is being scrutinized by all parties involved in her career. Black small square, she determined what her issue was not. She left it up to the audience to infer what her issue was based on the available documentation. It's not a coincidence. When a player picks her words with such accuracy, it is the communication of someone who has been doing this long enough to understand exactly what she is saying.
This is crazy, man. Caitlyn Clark has got to get out of Indiana. Caitlyn Clark has to get out of Indiana immediately, bro. I don't care how she got to do it. Call your agent, Mrs. Kane. Get me out of here. I want out of here. I'm not signing no epic deal. I'm not signing nothing with this organization. Until they clean house and do right by me, I'm not signing a goddamn thing. Get me out of here. Get me out of here. Get me on the first thing smoking out of here. I want out.
The Simon family, the executive layer of Amber Cox and Kelly Crosskopf, and the ownership structure of Indiana Fever now have a documented record that is comprehensive enough to assess without forecasting or conjecture. Black small square, a formal WNBA warning for reporting violations, 2 league disciplinary actions in 1 week, a documented pattern of rotation decisions that have been analytically contradicted by immediate game outcomes, press conference responses that locate accountability in collective language rather than individual ownership, sideline footage that has now twice documented physically inappropriate interactions with the franchise player, and a post-game statement from Clark that represents the clearest public signal she has produced this season regarding the state of her relationship with the coaching staff. Black small square, this analysis does not include Clark's contract condition as background information. Every other documented piece is time-sensitive because of the organizational forcing function. She hasn't agreed to an extension. A player who is actively assessing her institutional environment against the standard of what she needs to commit her professional future to it can be seen in her public communications throughout this season, the accuracy of her press conference language, the cautious conditionality of her responses regarding the team's direction, and the post-game statement from Portland. This channel has been chronicling the same evidence that she is gathering. She's viewing the same game movie. The identical pattern is being interpreted by her. Her evaluation timeline, not the regular season schedule, determines the front office's responsibility window. The difference between those 2 timelines is narrowing, and they are not in sync. It is easy to pinpoint the organizational choice that Saturday's footage, box score, and press conference transcript all call for. Organizations that have made institutional investments in the current structure find it difficult to implement and must pay the reputational penalty of admitting that those investments have not yielded the necessary results. However, the cost of that recognition, when applied now, is quantifiably less than the cost of Clark's assessment, which concluded that her current organizational context is inappropriate. Next is the Atlanta Dream game. From that outcome, the documented record will continue to develop in one way or another. It's WNBA time. As the organizational reaction to Saturday's outcome unfolds, subscribe now and turn on notifications for the full film room examination of the Portland footage and the rotation analysis. Post your well-reasoned analysis in the comments. Is Clark's post-game comment, "Tonight, officiating wasn't my problem," the most obvious public indication of her relationship with the coaching staff this season? Does the ownership group's review window have a set period of time before the organizational question arises due to her contract situation? Black small square, every well-informed viewpoint in that comment section is important. We'll see you in the upcoming video.
Stay locked with my channel, Simply Explained, for further WNBA updates.